Okay, so today we're diving into a story full of family secrets and stolen blessings and even dreams, like with a direct line to God. We're in
Okay.
the book of Genesis, chapters 27 and 28, and getting into the thick of things between Isaac, Rebekah, and their sons Jacob and Esau.
It's funny. What's so captivating about all this family drama is how it takes these age-old conflicts, right? Sibling rivalry, parents playing favorites, that sort of thing, and it infuses them with this spiritual depth that we're still talking about it thousands of years later.
It all sort of starts with Isaac deciding, as he's nearing the end of his life, he wants to give his blessing to Esau, his eldest. And it'd be easy to think of this as just some old tradition, but in this culture, it was a really big deal, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. This wasn't just some sentimental tradition. The blessing came with, well, everything. We're talking inheritance, leadership. It was about shaping the future of the family line for generations. But there's something else here too. Isaac's eyesight is failing, remember? And it makes you wonder, was he blind to more than just, the physical world around him?
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean. We're talking about spiritual sight then, are we? Like,
Don't
could he
sh-
really not see what mattered most, what was right in front of him?
Exactly. Yeah, that detail about his blindness, it's almost like a metaphor, isn't it? He's so focused on tradition, on what's always been done, that he might be missing out on, some divine guidance.
Which leads us to Rebecca, his wife.
Yeah.
She overhears this plan of Isaac's and, well, let's just say she is not on board.
Well, remember that prophecy. The one that said her younger son, Jacob, would actually be the greater of the two. It seems Rebecca might have a bit of, well, selective memory. She's holding on to the parts of the story that fit with what she wants, even if it means, well, taking things into her own hands, shall we say.
Yeah, taking things into her own hands is an understatement. She comes up with this elaborate plan, like we're talking a full-on scheme to trick her husband. A delicious meal crafted to appeal to Isaac's senses, even disguising Jacob to feel like his brother. It's kind of impressive how audacious she is.
But, just like with any kind of deception, it comes with a cost. And it makes you think, right, when we try to control things to force outcomes to match our own desires, are we really trusting in, well, a bigger plan? Or are we, like Rebecca, letting our anxieties and wants drive us to do things, maybe with consequences we haven't even considered?
And the fallout from all this, I mean, it's huge. Esau, he's completely devastated, betrayed by his own mother and brother. The way it's written, you really feel his pain, the feeling of being robbed of something that should have been his. You can't help but feel for him a little.
And this is way bigger than just a family fight, right? Remember those implications we talked about? This betrayal, it has these far-reaching consequences impacting not only their immediate family, but potentially generations to come. This is serious stuff.
Yeah, it really drives home that whole idea of interconnectedness, how our choices, even ones that seem small, can have these like ripple effects.
Absolutely. And the irony of it all, right? Jacob, he ends up running for his life, terrified of his brother's anger, alone, afraid, seeking refuge from the mess he created.
And that's where his journey takes this, well, interesting turn to say the least. A ladder stretching from earth to heaven, angels going up and down. Talk about imagery, right? It doesn't get more symbolic than that.
It's more than just a dream, though, isn't it? It's a huge turning point in the story. Here's Jacob at what has to be one of his lowest points, full of guilt and fear, and he has this incredible vision.
It's like this direct line to God has opened up, and despite all the things he's done, he's the one on the receiving end of it.
And at the top of that ladder, God himself. And he doesn't just show up, he reaffirms that covenant he made with Abraham, Isaac's father. This isn't just about forgiveness, it's about God's faithfulness, a promise that lasts through generations and even, well, in this case, deception.
So even when Jacob messes up, even with all the scheming and taking things into his own hands, that promise from God, it still stands. That's pretty incredible when you think about it.
And what's easy to miss is that God doesn't stop at comforting him. He lays out a plan, this future filled with blessings for Jacob and all his descendants. There's this sense of hope there, like it's bigger than everything that just happened.
It's like God saying, hey, Jacob, I see you. I know your heart. And even though you stumbled, I'm not giving up on you. Which, when you really let that sink in, that's a powerful message for everyone, isn't it?
It really is. It speaks to something so fundamental about what it means to be human, don't you think? That even when we're at our worst, even when we feel, totally lost or like our mistakes are all people can see, there's there's still that grace. There's that path towards, redemption and this future filled with possibility.
It's like that little bit of hope we all hold on to, right?
Mhm.
That idea that even when we've messed things up so badly, like beyond repair, that there's still a chance to start over.
It's true. And that's really what makes this story so, well, beautiful. It doesn't try to hide how messy our choices can be, but it also offers this really profound message of hope. Just like Jacob, right? We might let our mistakes, become our whole identity, get stuck in that cycle of guilt and regret, and never break free.
Ugh. Yeah, I've been there. We all have. Those what was I thinking moments can really stick with you.
Exactly. But this story, it reminds us that God's grace is, well, it's big enough to meet us wherever we are, to pull us out of those holes we dig ourselves and set us on a new path.
It's like this reminder that we're not alone, even when we're the ones who created the mess in the first place.
Right. And that brings up something we haven't really touched on yet. What about Esau? He's the one who was really hurt here, betrayed by his own brother, his mother. Where's the justice for him? Where's his fresh start?
Yeah, that's not something you can just ignore. I mean, we've all felt that sting of betrayal, that sense of being wronged. It makes you wonder how anyone moves on from that kind of hurt.
And it's interesting. The text, it doesn't really give us a neat and tidy ending for Esau. And maybe that's intentional,
So now you've got me curious. Tell me more.
Well, we love those stories with clear endings, right? The ones where everything's wrapped up, the bad guys get what they deserve, and justice prevails. But real life, well, it's usually not like that. Sometimes we're just left with this feeling of unfairness, wrestling with questions we can't answer.
It's like that messy in-between part, the part of the story that keeps going even after you turn the page.
Exactly. And I think Esau's story, it asks us to sit with that discomfort a little, to just accept that healing and forgiveness, they're not destinations, they're more like journeys. And sometimes it's in those confusing, ambiguous places that we find the deepest truths.
So you're saying we're not supposed to have it all figured out? That it's okay to sit with the uncomfortable stuff, the things that don't get resolved?
I think it's more than, okay, it's necessary sometimes. It's in those messy, complicated spaces where we grow, where we learn to hold on to both the pain and the hope, the brokenness, and that potential for redemption.
It's a different way of looking at redemption, isn't it? Not the clean and easy kind you see in the movies, but something deeper, something that feels more, well, real.
Yes, exactly. And it's a story that continues even today. Esau's journey, even with all its loose ends, it speaks to something universal, something we still struggle with. How do we deal with betrayal? How do we even begin to heal when there's no clear answers, no guarantee of things being made right?
That's a big question. It takes this ancient story and it makes it feel incredibly relevant to our lives today.
It does. And I think the first step is just acknowledging how complex it all is.
Yeah.
Resisting that urge to oversimplify, to put people into categories like good or bad. The truth is, we're all capable of both, often at the same time.
It's a lot like what we were saying about Isaac and his blindness. Sometimes we're blind to those nuances, the complexities, in our own lives and the lives of the people around us.
And it's in those overlooked spaces, those messy gray areas, that real compassion, real understanding can take root.
So as we dig into this idea of redemption and healing, how does this ancient story, with all its twists and turns, how does it speak to us today? What can our listeners take away from all this, from Jacob's deception and Esau's unanswered pain?
It really makes you think about how quick we are to label people, to say, well, he's the victim and she's the villain. But this story, it challenges all that. It's not so simple.
Yeah, because you've got Jacob, the one who lied and cheated, and he's the one who finds grace. And Esau, the one who seems like he should be, righteous and blameless. There's more to him too, right?
Absolutely. We just get this snapshot of his reaction, the betrayal, the pain. But that kind of hurt, that sense of injustice, it can stay with a person, for years, decades even.
It makes you wonder, how often do we do that in our own lives? Hold on to grudges, let past hurts define our relationships in the present.
Probably more often than we'd like to admit. But what if Esau, even without a happy ending in these chapters, what if he's like a challenge to us? To look at ourselves and ask, where am I holding on? Where do I need to, make peace with the messiness of forgiveness, of healing, even if it's not perfect,
It's a tough question. Because it's easier to focus on Jacob needing redemption.
Mm-hmm.
But Esau, he needs to find peace too.
Yeah.
To let go of the bitterness, to not let what happened define him.
And that's where this story, written thousands of years ago, suddenly feels very 2024. There's so much pressure to pick a side, find someone to blame. But What if real healing, real growth, it starts with looking inward, with recognizing how we might be holding ourselves back?
It's like the story is a mirror. It's asking us to look deeper, to question those easy narratives we tell ourselves about, well, about ourselves and other people.
Exactly. To ask not just what happened, but how did it change me? And who do I want to be moving forward? Someone carrying the weight of the past or someone who's learned from it?
That's a powerful place to leave things, I think. With a question, a
Mhm.
challenge, and maybe, just maybe, some hope too.
Because even when there aren't easy answers, even when our stories and the stories we tell are complicated, there's always that potential for something better, for healing, for growth, for rediscovering grace, for ourselves and for everyone around us.
So as you're thinking about all of this, as you encounter your own Jacobs and Esau's out there in the world, remember that.
Hmm.
Remember that grace. It's always there. It never runs out. Let that be the thought that sticks with you.